Yeah, guys, I gotta give a applaud for that first season of Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Wow, what a great ending and cliffhanger, may I say, for episode 26, and I'll get to that later. Uh, by the way, guys, how's everybody doing out there? This is Mount Vernon Kid. Uh, Episode 26, the final episode of season 1, entitled "A Day Unlike Any Other." The Avengers versus Loki, pretty much giving tidbits to the first official issue of the Avengers comics. Pretty much, Loki has captured all the 9 realms of Asgard, and Earth remains, and it's up to the Avengers to stop him. In the beginning of the episode, we see Iron Man, almost classic Iron Man, and tidbit to the movie. You see him working on a new armor in a basically in a steel mill with Etrit, crafting a new armor which is made out of Uru, the metal made of that Thor's hammer is made out of. We see the Light Elf, Faraday, and Hawkeye and Black Panther come in. We see Valkyrie, Lady Sif, Hank, and Janet flying with them on flying horses, coming to battle. And may I say, the armor that Hank was wearing looked a little bit like his Yellow Jacket outfit. And they do say that he is going to be Yellow Jacket in the episodes in next season, I think. So that's going to be cool. And we see the Warrior 3 and Hulk on chariots flying to lead up with the rest of the group. And then we see once again Loki gloating over Thor. We see on the Rainbow Bridge into Asgard, frost giants and trolls and everything. And next you know, the Bifrost Bridge is opening. More people to beat up, they say. Next you know, who comes out of the Bifrost Bridge first but the Hulk. And he still has the Executioner's axe. And he just cuts through the Frost Giant's giant club and then knocks him out. And he says, "If you want to crush something, crush me." And next you know, the Warriors 3 come out. "Have at thee!" And you see Volstagg flip off the chariots, and Fandal and Hogun. Now, a lot of people always ask me, out of the Warriors 3, who do you like the best, Chris? And it's the silent one that really I like the most, and that's Hogun. Hogun doesn't talk too much. He doesn't really talk too much, and he lets his actions do the more of the talking. And I like him more because he doesn't look like your typical Asgardian, because they kind of classify him as not being a Asgardian. He looks more like a Mongolian warrior or Mongol. So I've always liked that about Hogun. So that's just me. And the Warrior 3 and Hulk are fighting the Frost Giant. They get a little captured by one point, and then Lady Sif and Valkyrie and the rest of them come in to help. And then here comes Hawkeye and Panther. They take out the Frost Giants and the trolls, which was really cool. We see them take out the trolls, and then Hawkeye says, Janet is saying, like, "Did you see me, guys? I was riding on a flying horse and everything like that." And Hank says, "Well, we passed through a wormhole, actually." And that's where Panther starts explaining that Loki is behind this, and the Master Evil was working for Loki and everything like that. But then Panther says, well, not Loki in particular, more of the Enchantress. And then you see Lady Sif says, Amora, that traitorous witch, I'll have words with her. Basically, when I find her, we're going to have words. So basically, she says, let's go on ahead. Warriors 3, let's go. And Hawkeye jumps and says, now wait a minute, beautiful. We're not just going to sit on the sidelines. We're going to help you. And she says, no offense, but this is not for mortals to handle. And then Janet comes in and says, we just took on giants and everything like that. We're going with you. And then Hawkeye says, hey, does anybody know what happened to Tony or Cap? So we tune back to Cap, who's still in the underworld with Hela. And she's saying, basically there is much death. The smell of death is all over you, Stephen Rogers. And Cap is like, you got to send me back. And she's talking about her father, Loki. It amuses her that, but she knows that Loki is going to betray her. And she just can't really understand the hatred for Odin, his hatred for Odin. And Cap says, Thor's in trouble. I got to help him. And she says, what will you give me in return if I let you go? And Cap says, what do you want? And she said, if you were to die in battle, Captain, basically I get your soul. I get you. So we all know that Cap, so we don't know what Cap said. He's just looking at her. And then it cuts back to Loki ciphering off of the Tree of Life to cipher the Odin Force. And a troll comes and says, Lord Oki, we have trouble. And then we see the allied forces are coming upon us. And so Loki looks at like an image of what's going on, and you see the Avengers basically coming to get Thor. And Thor is like, you underestimate, just like me, brother, you underestimate the mortals. And he says, we'll see about that. And he magically makes this horn, blows it, and next you know, all you hear is outside you hear is something big's coming at the Avengers. And Hawkeye's like, what the heck is that? And Wasp says, more giants? And Hulk says, sounds bigger. And next you know, you see a giant wolf, which they call Horfin, but it's really supposed to be the giant furnace wolf, actually, but they called it the ice wolf, Horfin. Okay, so and then when it comes out of the shadows, Hulk says, I told you. And the Avengers fight it, and Giant Man tries to jump on him, but just by touching the wolf, you freeze. He gets frozen until finally Cap comes back. And then we really see Cap really take on what he's supposed to be, the leader of the Avengers. He says, Wasp, Panther, Hawkeye, distract him, blind him. Giant Man, Hulk, take out his legs. Avengers, let's move. And then it was like, oh, okay. Look at the leadership. Born leader. And they took out the wolf. They took him down, and then they took the wolf and bust through the walls, the hall of Asgard where Loki was, and then Cap's there like, surrender. And Loki's laughing at him. Laughing like, you think I'm supposed to be afraid of mortals? And so the Avengers fighting Loki. They're not really doing any damage to him because he's got the Odin Force in him. And next you know, who comes down but Tony. Tony comes down in his Asgardian armor. And I must say, the Asgardian armor did look a little bit like the Destroyer armor. I won't deny that. But it was cool. It was cool looking. And he's like, get away from my people or there's going to be trouble. And, you know, Loki's like, that armor, it's Uro, isn't it? He's like, yes. He's like, yeah, the same as Thor's hammer. And he's like, you really think you can hurt me, man of science? And, you know, they go at it. They go at it for a good while. While Hawkeye take on, free Thor, and then go to Wasp, Cap, and Hulk help Iron Man fight Loki. But in the meantime, before that, Loki broke Cap's shield. He broke the shield. I was like, oh man, he broke the shield. He crushed it. He took his staff and just blew it apart. And so what happened was Cap picked up Lady Sif's shield that she was carrying and was using it. And he was throwing it around like it was nothing. It was like, okay, you know, looks like Cap could, you know, with any shield, he could just do anything we want with it, which is okay. I didn't mind that. They're still having a trouble. Loki's even saying, like, mortals don't amuse me, but you, he said, he was saying, like, Tony, like, you have my attention now. Like, okay. Tony is fighting his heart out. He's putting everything he has into the fight. Hulk's doing his thing. You know, Wasp comes in and she does her best. Cap does his thing. The teamwork was really, you saw the teamwork really working in this episode. They free Thor. Thor breaks free. Go get his hammer, which is Cap in like this force bubble. He breaks it. And Panther, Hawkeye, and Hank go to the tree to basically destroy it because it's been corrupted by Loki. And on top of the tree there were these crows or ravens or whatever, and they were blocking them, like with sonic waves. And from there, Hank shrinks and gets behind it. He grows. And before that, we see a battle between Thor and Loki. And then Loki really starts ciphering the power. And then Thor's like, Loki, if you can't control, you've lost control over the Odin Force. If you don't control it, you may cause Ragnarok. And he's like, so be it. And then I was like, okay. And next you know, Hank, giant, grows and rips the tree out of its roots. And all the power goes back to Odin. And Odin wakes up from the Odin sleep. And then Loki's like, no. You know, the typical bad guy routine. And he's like, I am Loki. I am all power. I will destroy you. And then all of a sudden, you hear Clancy Brown's voice come out of Odin. And he just says, you know, I treated you like a son. You know, things like this. Why would you do this? And he said, if you thought the Island of Silence was torture, you ain't seen nothing yet what I'm going to do to you. And that was it. The episode ended there. They're in the hall. You saw all the Asgardians. You saw Balder. You saw Valkyrie. You saw Lady Sif, the Warrior 3, you name it. And, you know, Thor's there, and Odin says, my son, you have returned. You know, I thank you, and everything like that. And Thor turns to his father like, no, father. Thank these, the Avengers. And mortals, mere mortals? And he's like, yes, these mere mortals, thank you, Odin. Thank you, Avengers. I owe you my life and everything like that. We Asgardians, we owe them our respect. Odin comes down and says, thank you as well. You have our respect, mortals. Hail to the mightiest warriors. Hail the Avengers. All the Asgardians said, hail the Avengers. That was it. Scene cuts back to the mansion. Everybody's pretty much out of costume except for Cap. You see them saying, good night, Steve. Good night, Tony. Good night, Cap. Get some rest. You earned it.